remember which way round it is. Which way round? We go into the
Basically
encoders. And then it goes from the encoders into the antenna, which is behind us.
goes to the tower.
And then it gets sent via the radio signal through to the tower. Gets decoded again. And then it gets put on the internet. I say I kind of get the gist of it, but I just need a bit more technical terms from Herman there. So yeah, basically the wires go into the boxes, something funny happens in the boxes, goes out through the... Oh, we've got a diker. And there he goes. There he goes. Diker meaning to dive, which they do very well through the bush. And then through the antennae, sent through to the mast, changed around a bit and then sent through to internet. And that's as good as I understand it. I'm still getting to grips with all the technology. So I've never really been one for technology. So that part of the job is a whole new ball game to me, I must admit. Slowly getting to understand it all. But it's like very, very tiny baby steps. I'm quite happy here in the bush, which is obviously having two extremes, and yet they both come together to produce something quite unique and quite wonderful. And I must admit, I'd never heard of it before I came down for an interview, and I couldn't believe that no one's really come up with this before. I think this is such a fantastic idea, giving a lot of people the opportunity to see the African bush and join game drives like we can do with the comfort of your own home. I just think it's such a fantastic idea, and you get to know the animals in the area just as we do as rangers, and that's one of the big draws for a ranger. You actually, even if you come and visit as a guest, you get to see maybe the animals. Yes, that's a leopard, yes, that's a lion, yes, that's an elephant. But we start to get to understand their personalities as much as you can. And you start to understand their lives, and you start to maybe be able to predict a little bit more where they might like to be or what their character is like, and you guys can also follow that. And I think that is just such a fantastic thing. You actually get to almost live a life as a ranger in that sense, and getting to know the area, getting to know the roads. We're actually on Philemon's Cup line at the moment. We just went through Philemon's Dip. So you get to know your little area, just like you guys will get to know your streets and your houses and cities. This is our house, cities, towns. These are our roads. We just don't have the street names, but they still have names. And that just helps us if we do find an animal, we can say, okay, there's an animal here on Impala Road or Shambhan Road or that sort of thing. So it helps us to tell everybody else where the animals are. So I wonder what happens to the other two. They'll either be further south, maybe they've carried on going that way, because I didn't hear them this morning. Although I was making a lot of noise when I was getting ready this morning, so that's probably why I didn't hear them. But also it's about a kilometre distance between the camp and the house where Africa was hearing them this morning. So it could be they were just a little bit further than that, so it didn't carry too well to where we were. Okay, I have another question. Good morning, Chad. Welcome on board this morning. I was asking if I'm behaving myself. I'm always behaving myself. Just where we like to spit dung and things like that. But welcome on board. And you're asking, is there any particular part the leopard likes to eat when it's eating? Obviously, some of you are able to catch Mishu eating the kill yesterday morning that Karula tried to put in a tree that we watched the night before that. And she'd already eaten part of it, possibly to maybe make it lighter, although obviously going into her belly won't really make much odds. But I think she was just more hungry than anything. And they tend to start... Oh, sorry, I thought you were saying stop. They tend to like to eat the softer part first, so obviously it's easier to get into the carcass. So they'll eat from the anus or the belly. So it's just a radio message coming through. As we saw yesterday, Mishu was enjoying eating the head. Obviously there's a lot of soft meat in there as well. And as I say, it'll tend to be the softer parts of meat first that they go for. Same with the lions, they'll also go for the softer parts first generally. Now we're going to head up Zoe's road a little bit. We may or may not get a little bit of signal breakup, so do bear with us. But if we get too bad a signal breakup, then we'll have to turn around and come back. But I'm still going to try and see if we can see the lions for you this morning. It's amazing, the clouds don't lie. There's a lot of serious clouds yesterday, which is usually unsettled weather coming in, and that's exactly what's in today. It does, hey? I was just looking at that. Because I was actually thinking, I wonder if we get rain. I thought, no, we can't get it is. I was gonna... No, I was actually, yeah, it does look like it's... I was actually going home and I totally forgot when I was on drive yesterday that we had the serious clouds above our heads. Although, I must admit, things I lost the bet against unknown. Patrick was a little bit too... I did start setting alarm bells. Thought I was in bed anyway, and it turned out that Patrick was right. It was actually like this very overcast. It's actually much darker coming through. I was like, yeah, but it's, you know, there's this and this. Nah, it's gonna rain. I'll bet you. Which I still have to pay for. Sorry, I was just asking for a blanket. Oh, that's why. He hasn't got any boots on his feet this morning. It was actually not too bad when we first started, when we were with the Impala and the wildebeest. I even had my jacket off, and then the wind started picking up, and that wind is actually quite chilly. like the elephants came through here. Can you see which direction they went? Can you see which oh, sorry, they're crossing over onto my road. They went that way. One elephant dragging his trunk. You see the trunk drag mark. Sort of driven through it. See if we can get a nice shot for you. You see it again. So far, so good. Sweet. I should be coming. Alright, just in case there's any new viewers or people have just joined us, I'd just like to say hi and welcome to this morning's game drive. My name's Tara and we have Herman on camera this morning with Caroline in Final Control. And if you'd like to ask any questions, just send them through to finalcontrol@safari.tv and Caroline will be able to radio through them to me to answer live. You can see this is live. I'm splitting over my words this morning with that wind being so cold. My chin's actually going too cold. But as I say, with it being live, we'll be able to answer them real time for you, as if you're actually here on board, driving through the African bush. It would be nice to cup of hot chocolate or hot tea. Or maybe you're drinking a beer or something, maybe here at night, relaxing after maybe a long day at the office. You need a bit of a nature fix, which I really don't blame you for at all. And what the beauty about this is we just don't know what's going to happen. We can't predict it. We don't write a script and go, right, let's follow the script. We literally just drive around looking for animals, and with the help of the other guys in the area, hopefully we locate them. I'm just going to move this tree out of the way. Okay. Elephant's been eating. It'll be the same elephant whose tracks are down the road by the looks of it. Just taking off a branch, chewing on it a little bit. Didn't really chew on much of it actually. It looks like a bush willow. I'll see if we can get to the lines and I'll try and show you. There's the tree. I'll try and show you the leaves I've just picked up, see if we can ID it. For those of you who are just joining us, or this may be your first safari or couple of safaris, I've been in the Sabi Sands probably about just around 3 months now, so I come from a different reserve with very different vegetation. So I'm also just learning some of the plants in this area, and what I am finding is there's actually some more plants that I do know that I didn't realise would be here as well. We found a kubu berry the other day, which totally threw me. And I'm thinking, this looks like a kubu berry, but it can't possibly be a kubu berry for some unknown reason. I just didn't even think it could occur here. And we did a bit more research, and there's a few people that helped me out as well, gave some suggestions. And when I looked a bit closer, it actually turned out to be a kubu berry. Cool. Good morning, Richard. And I'm saying she's going to start with an easy question. And I'd love to be able to give you an answer, Richard. And Richard's just asking, it's saying that it looks quite chilly this morning. What temperature is it? Unfortunately, I don't have a thermometer, so I'm not too sure entirely what temperature it is, but it definitely feels warmer, because obviously we've got a lot of cloud cover and there was quite a bit last night, so there's a lot more air trapped, warmer air trapped, so it definitely feels warmer. It's just that wind that's chilly. But as I say, unfortunately I can't give you an honest answer as to what temperature it actually is. We're going into winter now, so the temperatures will be during the day roughly around 15, 18, sometimes 20, but at night it drops to just maybe a few degrees. We're actually just trying to find out the other day if we get frost here, and some of the rangers said that maybe in the drainage lines we might get a bit of frost, but if we reckon on, I think Herman was also reckoning on about, what was it, about 4 or 5? No, when we get into the depth of winter.
Yeah.
About 4 or 5, Herman's saying. But today, I'm not sure, hey, what would you guesstimate? Okay, Herman's saying maybe about 18 degrees. That's without the, oh, is that, yeah. There we go, got the 3 lines here. I'm just gonna. Alright, little girl. I'm not too happy with this morning. You see that tail flicking, she went very low. I just wanted to pull in here rather than get much closer, and that's obviously why the other vehicles are quite far away as well. So this is the tracks that we saw this morning. So they walked right past camp last night. Maybe some of you saw them around by the dam. Quite possibly. I don't recognise this male. He's got quite a thick mane to what I've seen the others. Sorry, I was just turning around everyone to ask Herman if he recognises this male, because I don't think we've seen him before. Just seems to have a lot more down his chest than what I remember any of the young males that I've seen. Especially with that female, she's a little bit edgy. I'm just going to see if we can ask Johnny who these lions are. Maybe some of the viewers might know as well.
Who's that? Is that Herman?
Hey, sir.
Okay, yeah, I got a little more on your area. As far as I understand, it's either Nkuhumas that are dotted, but it could have been some outsiders that are coming.
Okay, yeah, Johnny's saying either the Nkuhumas.
If maybe I'll give you an answer there.
Thank you.
He's saying maybe the Nkuhumas, but he's not convinced, or possibly some outsiders. As I say, just the body language from that one female, she was obviously quite down low, tail flicking, whereas the lions in this area are fairly relaxed with the vehicles, and that's obviously why, as I say, the other vehicles also. Now are they spotting another one? There's some people pointing off the vehicle. Thank you! So I don't know if there's another one coming in or whether they're just spotting a bird. I can't see what it is that they're pointing at the moment. I say just the whole behaviour is saying that these lions haven't seen or not too happy with the vehicles like the other prides in the area. I'd say this young male's maybe about 2.5, maybe 3 years old. He's already got quite a lot of mane growth down his back and down his chest, and as I say, that's what makes me think I've not seen him before. And her body language as well. So the Styx Pride, I've not seen them do that. It looks different to the male from the Styx Pride as well. I'll have to do a bit of digging. Unless there's some people, some viewers that might recognise them, as I say, and maybe send through your suggestions. I can talk a bit louder now that the other two vehicles have gone. So just to be polite to the other vehicles, and obviously the other guests don't want to be bothered by someone yapping on from another vehicle, so we do have to keep our voices lower when we've got other vehicles joining us in the sighting. Yeah. When we get a break, I'll just see. So there was Ephraim, and who else was it in the sighting? Aubrey. Ephraim Fatar. Ephraim Fatar. Ephraim Tar. Let's see if it was Aubrey. Aubrey Fatar. Might not be copying me now on the handheld. Right, and so we'll have to do some digging. I can see the other two are just lying flat now. I don't know if you've got all three in there.
No,
just
okay.
The other two are lying flat now, but this one female is still still up, and she's not too phased by us now. As you can see, she's looking away, looking off, but she's still not completely relaxed enough to lie down. As I say, but that's why I listened to what she was saying. The fact that, you know, her head was down, that's why I just pulled my nose in around here just to try and get a nicer view for you. But obviously keeping the distance, keeping her relaxed, and say she's gone okay, you're staying there, that's fine. I'm fine with you, she's not moved, and she's now looking completely away from us. So she's not too bothered about us being here now, but I don't know if you caught the the tail flick as we came in, you may or no, you didn't. I think with the vehicle still moving, it's quite difficult to to follow the animals. But, as I say, her ears were just her head was very, very low to the ground, the tail flicked, and that was just her basically saying, stay there. So we respect that. She's happy, we happy. That's all that matters. I think there were some more questions coming through. Okay, good morning to you, Pamela. Just in reference to the leopard kill that we had yesterday, Mishu was up in the tree and Karula and Duna were on the ground, Karula being the mother of the 18-month-old cubs. Mishu and Induna, and Mishu was busy eating and he kept hissing at one of them. I don't know if it was Induna and Karula, but at one stage it looked like he was hissing at Karula, and Pamela just wants to know, would Karula have been able to chase the boys off the kill if she wanted it, and would she be able to chase them off easier because this is her territory? I think that's possibly why she had her fill when she caught the impala. I think she's kind of knowing what they're like now. So I think she was hungry enough to want to eat. She had her fill right there and then she took it into the tree, and then she immediately went back to go and get the boys. And we actually bumped into them as we came into camp. So I think she's sort of compensating for the fact that they are getting older now and they are going to be more protective over their food. And to be honest, I think she'll find it quite difficult. I think she still will be able to chase them off at the moment, but they are slightly bigger than her. But I think she could still pull rank as a mother chasing them off, but I haven't seen enough of that to actually know for sure. I don't think, have you seen recently? No, Herman hasn't seen recently either. But the boys are definitely getting much bigger. I think Induna will back off, but Mishu I'm not sure. But I think she could still pull rank as a mother, regardless of it being her territory or not. I think she could still pull rank in that sense. But I think she kind of, as I say, compensates for the fact that the boys are going to be more protective over meat now. And so she eats before she goes to get them. But as far as I understand, I think they're her second litter. She had 2 girls before.
Second Tingana.
Yeah, Saseko and Tingana, thank you. I think they were born around February 2007, I think it was. But yeah, Pamela, definitely an interesting one, and I'll definitely keep a watch out for it and just see if we can get some interaction like that. But as they are growing up, it's going to get more and more difficult to get those interactions. She's going to start bringing them to the kills less and less, I think, to try and force them into hunting for themselves. The instinct is there. They've obviously watched her hunt, but they have started hunting. I know there was one of the boys that caught a duiker. One of the boys have caught an impala before, so they do know how to do it. And obviously it's just getting the knack of doing it, and obviously having that push to do it themselves. Maybe she looks after them a little bit too well. But that's good for us, because obviously they might stick around a little bit longer. There's a bit of traffic. There's a fairly main road, probably a few more meters behind the tree line there, and I think that's what.
Line 4 fully.
Ah, there we go. I think they might be a little bit soft. I don't know if.
No, they wouldn't get.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a bit soft. There's lions roaring behind us, and that's what's just picked up their attention. It'd be quite nice if they call back, but I'm not sure if it's the same pride. If it's the same pride, they should call back, but they don't seem like they're going to start calling back to them. So it might be a different pride, but that's obviously the Afka herd, which goes to show that it was 2 different lots of lions this morning. As I say, there is a road just on the other side of the tree line there, and there was some traffic down there, and that's what the female was looking at. It was catching her attention. Hi Robin, welcome on board this morning. And you'd just like to know these lion siblings. At the moment we're not too sure what lions they are. No, I haven't heard from any of the other rangers which lions they think they are. Johnny was saying possibly the Nkuhumas. I haven't personally seen them, so I'm not too sure. He also thought maybe they might be nomadic pride. I haven't seen the Nkuhumas around a vehicle, so it's very difficult to say. Just judging by the fact that there's 3 of them, I would probably hazard a guess that they are siblings. Because both the females look roughly around the same age, and I'd probably guess that the males around the same age. So I think they possibly could be, but I couldn't say for sure. But just obviously with the setup that we've got here, it kind of points towards the possibility. It doesn't look like they are going to call for this line here. And so if they were Pride members calling at the back there, they should really be calling back. Let's see if we can call Ephraim again. Ephraim Tower?
Can you please say good morning to JP from me?
Herman's saying good morning to JP. Or should I say Mora Mora back?
Say more and more.
So JP's just saying to Herman Mora Mora from Luxembourg. So Herman's just saying Mora Mora back. Unfortunately I can't get the accent right.
That's okay.
And good morning to JP from me as well.
Okay, so I hope Anna's watching with me.
Good morning, Morgan, and a warm welcome to you too on board the new vehicle this morning. And you'd just like to know what the difference is between the jaguar and a leopard, because your local zoo's getting a jaguar. I wonder which zoo it is. But they're just getting a jaguar, so you'd just like to know the differences between them. Well, they are a very, very similar cat. Both have sort of yellowish fur, but the jaguar tends to be more darker. It tends to be more of a rusty brownish colour rather than a yellow colour to the coat. They're very, very stocky cats, probably a little bit more stocky than the leopard. They're rosettes, and they've got a rosette with a black spot in the centre of it, rather than the leopard, which just has the rosette. And obviously they live in different continents. The leopard living Africa, Asia, whereas the jaguar in South America, and only in the South America in the jungles. So different kind of habitats as well. But yeah, as I say, it's a very similar looking cat, but there are some subtle differences. And I am hoping I'll try and see if I can put out the video, at least if I don't get to do a fireside chat. But when I was on leave and I went to the Ngwe Leopard project, I was lucky enough to spend some time with Darren Simpson, who helps trap any kind of carnivore from the Africas. So I'm just trying to see if I can hear anything that has caught these lions' attention. It's very quiet. So, as I say, he's caught jaguar, he's caught leopard, he's caught lion, all sorts of cats, cougar, excuse me, for research purposes, to put collars on them and things like that. And he actually made a drum to produce different calls, and one of the ways to actually try and entice a cat in, especially something like a jaguar in the jungle, is very difficult to obviously find tracks and things like that of jaguar, and then when you found a trail, the jaguar could be kilometers away, and they roam over quite large distances. So to try and entice them in towards the trap, he actually would make calls of a jaguar, and he made a drum to produce the sounds, and it's an ancient way of calling in jaguar. And he actually demonstrated the difference between a jaguar call and a leopard call, and it's very, very similar. The leopard, it almost sounds like a soaring, whereas the jaguar is just a long drawn out note, but they're both roughly around the same sort of pitch and tone, and so it just happens to be that the jaguar is a little bit longer than the leopard call, which is quite amazing. So there's just a few subtle differences. I'm not hearing any of the lions at the back of us calling again. Let's say as you go into winter, when the temperatures are cooler, you tend to get the lions calling more into the later morning. I'll say later morning rather than being sort of finishing around 5 o'clock. They finish the calling around 6, 7 o'clock. So obviously the temperatures are much cooler, so the air is a lot more settled, so the sound carries a lot further, and that's why I get them calling during the night and early in the morning, and they start sort of later on in the afternoon and evening, just as the sun's setting, you start getting the calls. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I can hear them. It sounds a little bit further. Actually, I'm hearing the end part, which it's funny because it sounds, the other part sounded further away, but that part sounded quite close. I don't know if it's because of the wind swirling around, but it's sort of swapping and changing. I can't quite make out if it's come closer or further away. I thought it had gone further away, but you could hear that last part. It's sort of... I've also got a clip of a lion call from Darren. I've actually got the clips of him with the drum and actually demonstrating that, so I'll certainly try and either do a fireside chat. If I don't get a chance to do it, I'll definitely try and put the clip up on YouTube at some point, hopefully in the next week or so you guys can actually hear the difference between the jaguar, the leopard and the lion. But the lion kind of goes, move, move. Obviously with the reaction from the lions, I really don't speak lion very well. But you have that part of the call is quite deep, and then towards the end it's kind of oof, 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 oof. And that part is what we're hearing. And if it's over quite a long distance, you don't often get a chance to hear it. There's still nothing from them. Now that sounds quite promising. Thanks, Lynn. And you say you've got some pictures of this male lion, and you're saying that it could be the Nkuhuma pride, and that's possibly the pride that we saw on the 22nd of May, I think it was. Was that Jared's drive, I think. I think he had the Nkuhumas up towards Buffalo's Hook Dam. And you're saying that it looks like the same male, so it could possibly be, as I say, Johnny said it could possibly have been them, but he wasn't completely convinced, so I don't know if he has seen them or not. But that sounds quite promising if you say you're recognising this male. And the Nkuhuma pride being 8 in the pride. Okay. Okay, Robin, you'd like to know, will these lions hunt together, or will they hunt separately? Probably they would still be able to hunt at this age. Whether they'll be any good at it, possibly. As I say, I think they're roughly around 3 years old, so they should really be able to hunt. But they would be hunting cooperatively, unless one is more hungry than the rest. And then if there's a small warthog or something like that, then they could probably put it down themselves. But something larger, they probably will hunt cooperatively. As I say, I've seen on my old reserve a brother and sister actually working cooperatively together. The sister kind of using the male's stupidity at times, because the males, I don't know what it was about the males there, but they kind of didn't really watch what was going on, and the females would be doing a hunt, and then they would stand up and start calling during the hunt, and as I say, they would actually, the females started picking up on this and using it to their advantage, and using the males to push the prey towards them. So if they stood up during a hunt, they would start calling, all the animals would run away from them, and the females would lie in ambush at the opposite side. And there was a young male and female that sort of broke away from the pride because the male was being pushed away from the pride, so his sister went to help support him, which was quite interesting, and she would actually move between the young male and the pride. And the pride would actually act quite strange towards her if she moved back into the pride. She would be on the outskirts for a day or so, because obviously she smelt of the male, and it's to stop the males breeding with the sisters and the mothers. That's why the males will push them away, obviously the coalition that's in the area, but also the pride members will push them out. It's sort of a natural reaction to stop any inbreeding. And for some reason this young female stayed with her brother, and there's obviously a very close bond. And there was actually two females and a male, just like this. And the one went off and helped him, and the other one stayed with the pride constantly. So there must have been a stronger bond between them. And as I say, she went and supported him. And he had a severed tendon because he tried to catch a bush pig when he was about 1.5 years old. And the tendon got severed in his wrist. He could still walk, he could still hunt and everything, but he did have a bit of a limp. And I wonder if that's why she went to support him. But he made it through to adulthood, and he was roughly around 240, 260 kilos when I left, so he was a huge male. But a very lazy male. I didn't really see him hunting much. He really did rely on the females a lot. But,
but he's heading towards those now.
I'm not sure, there's something on Zoe's road.
Just by Zoe to the north. I'm talking about power line now. Okay, we are south of APU power line, Zoe's road. Yeah, there's a small open plain in the side. Yeah, I want Zoe, just come to Zoe straight.
Sorry, what log do you have there?
I'm wanting to have very low.
Good morning. I just wanted to find out what lock you have on Zoe's road.
Yeah, I'm on Pimpan England. Yeah, by Zoe's road.
Copy that, thank you. Any other stations interested to still have the 3 Ngala on Impala Plains? Apparently there is one leopard in the area on Zoe's road. I'm not too sure what part, I think it's further north. I thought he might have bumped into the other lions calling. I'm half tempted just to have a drive down and see, with these cats being quite relaxed. So it'd be quite interesting if those lines that are calling do come through. We might be able to see if it is part of the pride or not, or whether it's other lines in the area that they're wanting to avoid maybe. But they don't seem to be too phased with them calling. Okay, good morning to you, Jen. And you'd like to know, will males kill young lions like domestic cats? And unfortunately, they do. It's quite a high. It's quite a high mortality, unfortunately, in lions. Lion society or lion life is very unstable. It's quite a difficult one to be a lion. Lions, on average, will hold a territory for about 3 years. If there's more lions in the pride or in the coalition, then the chance of them holding onto a territory is obviously greater. Obviously, if they outnumber other coalitions or prides in the area. But if a coalition takes over a territory, if there's any prides where there's very, very young cubs, they will most certainly go in and kill them. The reason being, if they wait for those cubs to mature and to leave the mother. It'll only be 2.5 years before that female will be ready to mate again. And if she does mate after those 2.5 years, there's nothing to say that these males won't lose that territory. So it could be in the 3-4 years that they held that territory that they wouldn't have any cubs because they'd be killed by other males coming in if they lost that territory. So they rather go and kill any small cubs so that the female will be back into heat probably about 4 months later, 3 or 4 months later, maybe a little bit longer. But what's quite interesting is that the female, if that does happen, or if a male coalition takes over a pride and they'll try and mate with the females, they don't seem to fall pregnant in that time, and there's been a study done on it, and it could possibly be to counterbalance the possible changes that occur, because once a coalition takes over, there may be another coalition that might try and take over as well. So it seems to be that the females, to try and start creating bonds between the males that could hold the territory, they allow them to mate, but at that point they don't conceive. There's something in their body that stops them conceiving, so they can still produce the bond, but they don't gain cubs until later on, because obviously if another coalition comes through, they could have all that energy to try and produce cubs and then them being killed again. So it's quite an interesting period where a coalition does take over, and a lot of upset and goings on and everything. And I've even heard of the Mapocos killing fairly old cubs, but unfortunately the Mapoco coalition that was about 6, and they're splitting off now, they seem to sort of go overboard with killings, unfortunately, which is not necessarily the norm. And even cubs, I think around 6 months old, maybe even a year old, I think I've heard that they've tried to kill. So they unfortunately have quite a bad reputation because of it. As I say, everything in nature happens for a reason. So it's not like humans that they do something just out of spite. It's not, animals aren't like that. There's always a reason behind it. There may be the 1 or 2 individuals in the animal where they, there's a little bit funny things going on in the brain, so they may do something not sort of the norm, but generally animals, there is a reason behind what happens, and it's actually looking for that reason why they do something, and it's basically at the end of the day the survival and continuing their genes, basically making sure that their genes survive. It's all to do with making sure that you have your young and have your offspring, making it through to the next stage. A station with the Ingwe. Oh. Sorry, do you want to go again? Yeah, go again? Awesome, so we've got Lynn and Gloria saying it definitely looks like the Nkuhuma male from the pictures that they've got, so that's quite an interesting one. So I finally got to see some members of the Nkuhuma Pride, and apparently when they were first found they were sitting underneath a brown ivory tree, and that's where they get the name from, Nkuhumas. Hi Monty. And Shalom, I'm starting to pick up from Mark, and I hope you are well. And you'd like to know the sleeping habits, how they differ from lions to leopards. Now, lions can be incredibly lazy cats. They can spend, yes, I'm talking about you. Are you seeing something past us? And lions can spend around 20 hours a day sleeping sometimes. And they tend to sleep during the day as well. Obviously leopards tend to also sleep during the day, so that's very similar. Leopards tend to hunt more at night as well as the lions. What have you seen there? But generally speaking, it depends on where the leopards are. Obviously lions will sleep on the ground, whereas leopards, if there's a lot of predators in the area, they'll tend to sleep up in trees, and that's obviously, when you think of a leopard, that's the stand or the position that you expect a leopard to be in, is in the tree with its legs dangling out the branch. But from what I've seen here, the leopards here do spend a lot of time sleeping on the ground as well. So again, it just depends on predators in the area and circumstances. I know in the Serengeti, where there's probably not much cover, you tend to find the leopards in the trees a lot more than maybe the bushveld that we have here. I'm just trying to think at how long leopards will sleep. I haven't actually seen them enough. I don't think that they'll actually sleep for 20 hours, sort of non-stop like the lions would. Well, I say non-stop, they would move and adjust to, depending on what's going on with the weather. But I think the leopards, from what I've seen so far, I think they do more catnapping rather than the full sleeping. But I could be standing to be corrected on that one. I'm just going to see how many vehicles are with the leopard. The station with the engraved tower. Is there space for us in the Ingwe? Look.
I can't copy you well, sir. Are you talking to me?
I confirm you're still with the Ingwe.
Okay, yeah, if I'm still with the Ingwe, yes.
Okay, copy. Everyone for tower?
This is something here. More from west on the block. So you got another something there? I got Manindi those roads. Also
Okay, just hearing from the radio, there's a buffalo herd somewhere around Zoe's Road, which is basically the road just to our right. So I'm just wondering if that's what that female is looking at. The wind's actually blowing towards these lines, so I'm just wondering if that's what they're smelling and what she's possibly either smelling or even seeing. Hi Tim, welcome on board this morning, and you'd like to know if something does happen to come through here, would they still be lying down and ignoring them, or would they try and hunt them? And it really does depend on if they're hungry. If they are hungry, they would certainly try and hunt them. If they aren't too hungry but they get close, then they may also try and hunt if the conditions are right, because they're very opportunistic cats, and if something does come quite close and they're kind of hungry but the conditions are right, they might just try it. If they're not hungry, they won't waste the energy. So they'll probably, if it's nothing like a buffalo, if it's an impala, to say, they might just stay where they are. The impala can't really do too much to them. If it's a herd of buffalo and the buffalo spot them, they may try and push them away. Obviously, lions do like to eat buffalo, and the buffalo probably feel quite threatened by them. So they may try and move them on. But again, it just all depends on if they're hungry or not. But the bottom line is, if they're not hungry, they won't waste the energy in trying to kill. Yeah, if anybody's joining us and wondering what's going on here, we're doing a live game drive here from Nkuhuma Game Reserve in South Africa, and we're watching the 3 lions. We've got 2 females and 1 male lion here, possibly from the Nkuhuma pride by the sounds of it, which is one of our local prides here. And we're busy just watching to see what's going to happen, because it sounds like there's a buffalo herd making their way somewhere to the south of us by the sounds of it. And just to let you know who's on the team this morning, we've got Caroline in final control, and Herman's joining me on camera this morning, and myself, Tara, presenting and guiding you around this morning. I'm just trying to listen to what's happening with the radio, because I'm trying to see if it's better for us to try and move to where the buffalo are, or to stay here, because I'm not too sure how close the buffalo are. A station with you in Yarik, Tara? Ah, okay. Sounds like they're much further north than where we are. So, the possibility of happening, or something happening that I thought might happen, it's happening further north. So I wonder what's catching her attention, unless she's smelling the lions that we were hearing calling. I think with them being flat, I don't think it's gonna... I thought I just heard the lion calling again. I think we'll just see if we can drive down Zoe's road and just see if we can't pick up the other 2 lions that were calling. Just see if we hit it lucky, and if not, we'll see if we can come back. So I don't think these guys are going to move anytime soon. It sounds like the leopard's actually gone into the drainage line down towards either Voyatella Lodge or just round the back of our camp. They like the drainage line around the back there. It doesn't sound like they've got a view of him anymore. We'll see if we can continue on. We'll see if we can maybe come back a little bit later and see if they're actually doing anything. Alright, little one. Stations leaving the 3 Ngala on the Impala. I haven't been hearing the lines calling again. I don't know if any of the other vehicles tried down this way. Let's see if I can actually listen to the radio and just see if there's anything else that was happening. Okay.
Somebody knows that parallel to Nkuhuma is north of quarantine or west of quarantine.
Station with Ingray, is it possible to join you?
Keep coming otherwise there's something on the quarantine. Keep coming quarantine.
Thank you.
Whatever. God? The two fazem gado de palha de Nkuhuma, que é uma fase boa e uma mola. Vai, tem um bocado de satinho e de resolve da voz. I don't know if fazem gado yet. I'm pulling around. Becoming like a standard Mazira for Mova, Muga set a seat, Muga on the side of the door, push channel. Take a beat. Living this happy Nyari on those roads. Slowly, in West Brazil, got out of those.
Confirm which part of Zoris are the Nyari on?
On Oak Ridge Road, not those roads, Oak Ridge Road.
Copy that. That's why I was getting confused. Because things over. Okay, hopefully, how are we looking with the signal? Okay. Okay, cool. Awesome. I think we still have a few questions on the line that I'll be able to answer. Just to let you know what's going on. That's where the confusion was coming in. I've got better radio signal now with the guys. And it sounds like the buffalo up by Aubrey's Road. He kept saying Zoe's, so I was just asking whereabouts, and he said, no, sorry, Aubrey's Road. So the buffalo are further north from where we are. I'm going to see if we can maybe catch up with the leopard. He's in the drainage line. I don't know if they still have a visual, but they said to keep coming. And as I say, we'll see if we can maybe try and see if we can catch up with them. And if we don't have any luck, as I say, I'll have a drive back round to where they are, where the lions are again, and just see if the other two might make their way up towards them. Okay, it sounds like the buffalo are actually moving across Buffalo's Hook cut line now. He keeps saying Zoe's again. He's confusing everyone this morning with the buffalo sighting. But as I say, it sounds like they're moving more north, and they're still quite a way from where we are. So I think we'll try see if we can see the leopard. And maybe the buffalo might make their way down towards Gary Dam later, but it sounds like they're actually moving on to Buffer's Hook, so we're not going to have a chance to see them. But I think if we've got some of the line questions that I can answer while we're driving. Hi Ali, welcome on board this morning, and you're asking is it true that the lions in South Africa are heavier than the ones in East Africa? I actually haven't heard that myself, I must admit. I know in Namibia the lions there are supposed to be quite large lions, and the reserve that I used to work on, we had black maned lions, which tends to be Namibian gened lions. And as I say, they were quite huge, so I don't know if it was true, but they certainly were huge lions. I mean, the male that we had was weighing in roughly around 280, 300 kilos, which is quite massive for a lion. His son also was around 240, 260. That's the one and that's affirmative. I'm on Rebecca's Road at the moment. So yeah, they were very, very large males, and it could be true that they had Namibian genes. That's the only ones that I've heard that are supposed to be the largest around, but I haven't actually looked into the eastern lions. So I don't know if any of the viewers are watching that could maybe have a quick check about the lions in East Africa, and just see if we can get a weight comparison maybe, and just see if we can answer that question while we're here. Otherwise I'll have a quick look and post it up on the Ning website and my Facebook page, just see if I can actually do a bit of research for you and just find out. But that's the only one that I've heard is the Namibian lion is supposed to have been the larger of the lions. just asking about the Mapoko males, and obviously the two that have broken away. Remember, to begin with there were 6 in the coalition of the Mapokos, and now Kinky Tail and Mr. T seem to be seen a lot more on their own. They've actually been called or nicknamed them the Wati brothers or in Mala Mala, because they're seen more regularly on their own than not with the coalition. And you're just asking, will they actually turn on the rest of the coalition? And to be honest, I don't think so, because they have been a coalition. If the 2 dominant ones, then there's no reason for them to sort of making sure that the territory is held with the Mapokos, because obviously two lions is not as strong as 3 or 4. So if there's another coalition in the area, they will need to make sure they've still got strength on their side to hold on to the territory. So as I say, it's from what I can understand from the Mapokos, I'm obviously just from what I'm sort of gathering being here, I don't think they would. I think the strength in numbers will far outweigh them wanting to try and take over the whole territory by themselves. And it's happened before. There was a big coalition of 6. I forget where it was now, and they actually basically did the same things as the Mapokos. No other lion in the area could get a look into the territory, and they were basically ruling the roost for a very, very long time. They were holding on to the territory a very, very long time, and they started getting very aware of that, and they started splitting off, and that's how the males in the area were able to actually come in and fight for the territory, and they actually started picking off the males one by one because they were splitting off. So they still need those safety in numbers. So it's quite interesting to see what's going to happen with the coalition of 5 young males. A station with the Ingwave top. Not too sure where it
I
goes.
said, this guy is a bit more with.
Copy that, yeah. I thought you sort of saying east. Close to the bush by now. Quite an interesting question, Lynn. I say anything could happen, but that's my thoughts on it. Okay, so somewhere around here.
On the Utrecht cut line going west, yeah, by Kaimazizana.
Are you quite far off the Ndlela? Are you close to the Bushbrae? Copy, I've got your visual now.
So yeah, but
Copy, I've got visual of it. I did have visual of him, he says just lost him now. Maybe slip in here. Oh, he's gone. See if we can see him from here. Otherwise we might have to go back out and onto Zoe's road again. Can you see? Morning. Oh, he's coming this way. Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, yeah, there was still a lot of pansying. Cool, thank you. Okay, just to... Sorry, who was that? That was... Abel. Yeah. So I'm still just getting used to everybody. I don't see everybody often enough to actually recognise them at the moment. But Abel was just saying that he saw the leopard coming in, and he's thinking that he may have seen the impala this side. So he says that he's just in the bush, somewhere to the left of us, and he might just come out this way. He said he was actually moving towards where we are. So we'll see if we're able to spot him. And if we sit here long enough, he might just come out. Otherwise, if we don't have any luck, I'll see if we can go back to the lions. I say sometimes it's worth sitting with cats that are flat. Sometimes something just happens and they wake up. But obviously we've spent quite a bit of time with them, so quite nice to see what this little boy's up to. I'm not too sure who it is. I don't think they've said. They just said it was one male leopard. Just wondering if we can maybe go down here a little bit. It's quite open where we are here, so if he does walk that way, we should be able to see him, and if he comes out, then we should be able to see him.
Quick coffee Nyala Dam.
I'm not too sure how far. Do you understand how far he was on the other side of the bank? No. Not too sure. Was there any more line questions that were coming through that I can maybe answer while we're waiting? Okay, I've got a question from Jan. Apparently it was from yesterday, but hopefully Jan might still be watching this morning. Ah, there he is. I can see a tail. On the opposite side, there's this dead tree here. You go to the right of it, and it's on the opposite side.
Yes, it was close where I was zooming in just now.
Moving on the opposite side of the bank there.
Sweet.
Okay, lost him now. And I'm gonna, oh there. I'm gonna try and pull forward and just see if you can see it a little bit better. No, I've got no visual either at the moment. Looks like he was moving more west now. I'm just thinking if it comes out into the open there. Doesn't look like it. This goes to show if you're patient, sometimes it does happen. Too nicely or Rebecca's maybe. No. Went in behind the tree at the back there. Let's just sit here and just see if there's any, if he comes out, because at least it's fairly open there, hey? If you got in, or don't need to pull forward a little bit more. A little bit more forward. A bit more. Just see if we can get a visual again, otherwise, if he's moving west, then we'll see if we can maybe pick him up.
You don't see him,
No, I don't see him at the moment. So Jan just wants to know where a female's in estrus for a few days, and will she mate with more than one male, basically. It is possible. Again, it does depend a lot on the circumstance of that, as I was saying earlier, about the swapping and changing of territories, and the females strengthen the bonds, but they won't conceive. When a female does go into estrus, the males follow very, very closely. If she gets up and moves a centimetre and sits back down again, the male will get up, move a centimetre and sit back down again, and he literally won't let her out of his sight. Generally, there's not really much fighting between the males for the privilege of mating with a female. Generally, the one who gets to her first has sort of first refusal. I'm just wondering if I'm seeing, and then just quickly check. Yep, a bit of grass. She will basically allow the male to mate with her if she wants to, and as I say, he will follow her wherever she goes. He will follow. It tends to be obviously the more dominant ones going to the more dominant of the females, just because obviously they're going to be stronger. They're probably going to get there first, and he will stay with her and he'll mate with her every 15 minutes. Now, she won't release an egg until she's been mated a few times, and the males have barbs on their penis, and every time he sort of retracts, then those barbs will stimulate, and that's actually what stimulates the release of the egg. So she has to be mated a few times to actually stimulate the egg release. So the chances of having more than one father would be quite slim, because that male would follow her unless there is some fighting going on between the males and then he takes over. But generally, unless she allows another male to mate, it's quite a difficult one. Whether it's going to be a mixed siring, I don't know if anyone's been able to prove that yet. I did read quite interesting. She was asking about the leopard and the cheetah, and as I say, it could possibly happen in the leopard that another male takes over. But whether you have mixed cubs from two different males in the litter, I think it's yet to be proven. But what they have found in cheetah is that is quite a distinct possibility, and that's possibly why the cheetah have been able to come out the bottleneck, because about 100,000 years ago they went through this bottleneck of the population crashing. There was only a few individuals left in the wild, and the genetic variation was very, very small. And they're actually thinking that the female will allow other males to mate with her even after another territorial male has mated with her. And they've actually seemed to have proven that she can have mixed cubs from different fathers in the same litter, and that should help with genetic variation, helping the species. I don't think this leopard's going to turn. I think he may have gone further, so I think let's move around back onto Rebecca's road and see if we can relocate him. So unfortunately with that drainage line, it wasn't going to be easy to actually get in there and get out again. It's too steep there. So we can carry on. Actually, I wonder, let's go up and down. Might be easier. Maybe even Zoe's road and then come down. Stations had a brief visual of the one Madonna Ingwe clambering west from the team on the western side of quarantine area. I'm going to try and relocate to Zoe's road. So yeah, Jan, quite an interesting one. As I say, I don't think it's been proven yet in lions and leopards, but it has in cheetah. Again, it could be beneficial to allow more than one lion in the coalition to mate. Less likelihood of the lions killing, but then if they're part of a coalition, there'll be no reason for them to kill the other males' cubs, so to speak, because they're still part of the, especially if they're brothers. So obviously the genetics are going to be very similar, and that's why you get families and helping siblings actually helping the parents rear the next set of offspring, especially like jackal and animals like that, because they're related. If they can help their siblings to survive, then basically they're helping themselves to survive. It's almost like they're having their own offspring. So if the coalitions, which are generally brothers, it would be the same sort of scenario. If one of the brothers mates with the female, that's obviously why there's not too much competition between them to mate with the females. So if they've got the same genetics, then it's almost as if they're mating with that female, so there wouldn't be any reason for them to kill the cubs if they haven't mated with that female. But obviously you do get strangers coming together as well. If there's one young male from one pride being moved on, and then another young male from another pride being moved on, the giraffe here. Then they come together to form a coalition, then you might have a bit of a competition going on. But that's what the beauty of it is. We're still trying to learn all these intricate details, and the more we find out, the more we want to know, and the more questions that get asked, so the more research that needs to be done. quite a dark female, this one. It's actually probably one of the darkest females I've seen here. And just a quick reminder if anyone is joining us, my name's Tara. I'm joining a live game drive here in Nkuhuma Game Reserve in South Africa. I have Herman on camera with me this morning and Caroline in final control, and if you do have any other questions then you just need to send them through to finalcontrol@safari.tv. I'm just wondering if there's anybody that's had a chance to have a look at the weight of lions in East Africa, just to see if we can make a comparison to the lions down here. On average in South Africa the lions are male lions are roughly around 220 kilos. The females maybe about 180 kilos. Let's say in Namibia they seem to be slightly larger, maybe about 240, maybe 260. But that's just going off of the population that was in my old reserve. Be quite nice to see if we can do a comparison. I don't know, you're able to get the colour of the tongue there?
I got it earlier.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you're able to see the colour of the tongue. I've actually got a headless giraffe at the moment. So with the vehicle being quite a long vehicle, the perspective is quite different now, so I can't see exactly what you guys are seeing at the moment. But if you can see the tongue, you can hopefully notice it's not a pink colour like ours, it's a blue-black colour. It contains a lot of melanin there. And the theory goes that when they're out in the sun, generally when it's a sunny day here in Africa, they're eating all day, so sorry, I was just trying to see what he was doing. So their tongue's going to be out in the sunshine, possibly getting burnt. So the theory goes that there's melanin in there to act like the sunblock, like you have in your arms. So it's possibly true. I haven't heard any other theories. I think it can also help with the thorns, because obviously they eat quite thorny trees. And possibly it helps to strengthen the tongue. This melanin has a knack of doing that. There's melanin in the bird feathers, and generally the bird feathers are stronger where they have melanin. So maybe it's a combination of both. Okay, I'm going to continue on. Thank you. Let's see if we can... let's just spook the giraffe as well. Animals, when there is a lot of wind around, they do tend to get a lot more edgy, more on a high alert, because they get confused about where sounds come from, and the sounds get masked. So they do tend to get a lot more edgy when there's a lot of wind. And I've actually seen rhinos get a spook and run for no apparent reason. They just start running. So they can't get where the scent's coming from. They can't pick up too much. thanks, Penny. Penny living down in Durban in KwaZulu-Natal, I believe. And Penny's just saying, I think, which marathon is it? Is it being run today? Conrad's marathon. Is it being run today? Comrades marathon being run tomorrow. And you've been having hot temperatures of about 30 degrees, which is obviously not great for running. But you just had a drop in temperature. You had gale force winds last night. You had a drop in temperature, possibly maybe moving towards us. Possibly. We could begin the tail end. And I just wonder if all this change in weather is to do with the volcano erupting. I don't know enough about how the volcanoes would affect the southern hemisphere being in the northern hemisphere. It'd be quite interesting to find out, because this is, you do get the odd day of being cloudy, but we just seem to be having a lot more cloudy days recently than we should have. Yeah, the lions are still where we left them, still all sleeping. Unfortunately, where we heard the other two calling, where I wanted to try and see if we can try and catch up with them, I just realised that there's no roads, it's only the bush where it sounds like they were calling from, so I'm not sure if we're going to be able to catch up with the other two that were calling. I was hoping they may have made their way through to the other three, but it doesn't sound like it. So the wind's not blowing in the right direction for them to get their scent. The wind is blowing in the right direction for the three to smell the other two that were calling. I think we're about opposite where we were, hey? Sorry? Yeah. Seems to be very, very quiet. I say it looked like he was maybe walking this way rather than continuing south. So I'd have expected to have at least seen something from where we were sitting coming out into the open, which just didn't happen, which made me think that's why it's coming this way. We've been spending a lot of time in this area. So the wind's starting to play tricks on our eyes. Yeah, carry on. Awesome. Okay, thank you very much, Penny, for getting back to us on the lions. Saying in the Kalahari they're roughly about 20-30 kilos heavier than the lions on the east coast. The theory being they have to walk further to find food and find water, so their muscles are sort of a lot more developed, which kind of makes sense. And that's possibly the same for the lions in the East Africa. Being in the Serengeti, probably they'd have to walk much further, obviously keeping up with the migrations, that sort of thing. So it could possibly be true. The lions in East Africa with the same sort of setup as the Kalahari lions, from what Penny was saying. Thank you very much, Penny, for that. It does make sense. What have we got here? This is our lion tracks from this morning. So the lions walked past our camp last night on Boyatella Access and turned down Zoe's Road. And apparently there's a criminal as well. They bumped into each other. Probably someone walking down here with guests yesterday. Or someone sending their tracker off into the bush. And that's basically when you see the people sitting on the front bonnet. They have the tracker on the front. It's the best view to actually see the road for tracks. Obviously see up ahead there's nothing so obstructing his view. So he's able to look out, and if there's any tracks that go off into the bush, generally the tracker will get off and follow the tracks, try and find the animal, and then radio back to the guide, who can then go in. Or the guide goes with the tracker, depending on the circumstances. Especially in a big bush like this, the guide probably would go in, just to be an extra pair of extra set of eyes. Maybe with this wind, maybe one of the boys, it's either Misha or Nduna by the sounds of it, I'll be finding somewhere sheltered out of the wind, maybe to settle down. Let's see if I can maybe take a drive back around Rebecca's Road. See if we just pop back out on towards Quarantine a little bit later. Just judging by his actions, I think he's going to stay at this side in between the drainage line and Zoe's Road. I don't blame him for finding a nice sheltered spot. That wind's really starting to pick up, but it looks like it's brightening up where we were seeing rain earlier on. I don't think the rain's going to hit. Have a quick drive down a little bit further down Zoe's Road just to see if we can pick up anything from those two lines that we're calling. It doesn't sound like lines have done much since we've left them, but I'll see if we can head back there, just have another check of them, especially if there's anyone joining us that missed them the first time round. I'm just quite interested to see if we can try and find them. Especially if their tracks are over our vehicle tracks, that would be quite interesting.
Fuzzy, Gala, Delta. Copy.
Last station confirm which down?
Saya Majestic Pride and 30 and Nkuhuma passing Gala, Jordan Jam Province.
Okay, copy. I had some collaring just south of where the 3 Ngala were on Impala Plains. I don't know if anyone's following up on those.
Gotcha.
Okay, sounds like the Styx Pride are in Torchwood, by the sounds of it. I think it was the Styx Pride, I think he said. Okay. Hi Jody, welcome on board this morning. If you'd like to know, does a vet keep a check on the animals on the reserve? And if they get sick, do they get looked after? What happens? Oh Jody, you do have to remember that this is the wild. This is not really a zoo. The thing about the wild is that animals have been living many millions of years for long. And they have been think okay, I've just turned around. I was trying to see how far we could go down Zoe's Road. Still no tracks here, so I think the lines must have been a little bit further south than what I thought. But they may have just cut through into the bush here. So I'm just going to head back to the lines, so there's nothing else that's been reported. So we don't often get to see these lines, so I'm going to go back and see if there's anything happening that side now. Just have a quick look and then maybe continue on towards Gowrie and onto the opposite side. So I was going to try and see if we could relocate, but I think they've gone too far into the bush already. And there's no tracks down here whatsoever. I was hoping we may have got something over our tyre tracks. Or brief tyre. Sorry about that, guys. Apparently we just had a bit of a technical problem with the sound, but hopefully you guys are back now. So I was just trying to see if we could see there's a red-crested coron. And I was trying to see if we could have a quick look at him, but we went to the black screen and then he ran off into the bush just before we came back again. But the coron, the red-crested coron, is quite an interesting bird. Also known as the kamikaze bird, because what he does is he flies up, then a few meters above the ground he closes his wings and then falls back down to the ground. And apparently the females get very impressed by this. And you can tell the difference between the males who have done this before and the males who haven't. The males who are new at it won't open their wings. They just fall to the ground and hit the ground with quite a hard bump. Whereas the males have done it a couple of times, start to learn if they open the wings just at the last minute, they can fall quite gracefully to the ground. So it's quite funny to actually see if there's a juvenile there or not that's practicing this. So red-crested coron. With them being in the area, I'm really hoping to see them in the summer displaying to the females. So it's the funniest display. They go, say, about 2 meters off the ground, give or take, and shut the wings. So we're back on the road leading towards Impala Plains from Zoe's Road. If anybody's wanted to try and join us on the map, oh, and I was busy answering a question before you guys blacked out about whether we have vets and whether they get looked after. As I was saying, animals have been looking after themselves for many, many, many millions of years. So basically, driving around like this, we actually